Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Anne and this is the Health Hub. Thank you so much for tuning in. If it's your first time, welcome. You are at most welcome. Make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, and also thank you so much. I really appreciate your support for this channel. And yeah guys, your contributor, the channel is growing. I'm happy, you happy, I'm happy, you happy. So today we're talking about why you should be working in rural. I know a lot of people do not want to work in rural areas. Typically, rural areas suck, basically. I'm sorry, they don't. They don't. So most people want to work in the city because obviously the environment is conducive. There's so much support with regards to city hospitals because they're well resourced and they are well staffed. So there's a lot of there's so many, specialist doctors that are allocated to city hospitals, and it's basically mainly tertiary hospitals and quaternary hospitals. So yeah, those hospitals are where most doctors will typically want to work. But today I'll be giving you reasons why you should reconsider and basically take that placement in a rural area. Not because you don't have a choice, because unemployment is literally around the corner, but because, I'm going to be giving you genuine reasons why it is worthwhile to actually work in a rural area, okay? If it ain't about the money, you can mess me with. Okay, it is about the money. The money is better in rural areas. I won't lie. It definitely is about the money. The money, basically, depending on the level of ruralness, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain. There's rural areas and there's like rural areas, and depending on that, and basically the size of the population, how small the town is it in a village, is it in a township, in a small town, there's varying percentages of rural allowances that are allocated based on the hospital facility. So some are maybe like 10%, depending on just how rural, because if your town is like, if you're working in a town that's relatively biggish with like malls and things like that, then it's rare that you'll get a percentage that's high compared to someone who's working in a town with like one street and like nothingness, So basically it varies, like it really varies based on the level of ruralness. I also thought it was based just solely on that, but you find a hospital like where I'm currently working, the town is not rural. I mean, so the highest percentage that most hospitals will normally get is 22%. So basically 22% of your basic salary will be coming from rural allowances. That is a lot of money, like a quarter of your whole salary, So that is one of the things that these hospitals that are in rural areas do, and that what the government has implemented to try to get more doctors to work in rural areas, because it is known that doctors they don't want to work in rural areas. So that's also a pull factor. They also, number two, the smaller hospitals or hospitals that are placed in rural areas allocate a lot of money and invest in doctors or hospital quarters or doctors' quarters. And this is done solely so that the doctors don't really struggle in terms of, finding a place to stay. It gives you a bit of time and you also save money that way. So smaller hospitals will invest in more money in terms of making sure that they provide you with the necessary accommodation. So in terms of that, you don't have to really pay for a place to stay. You don't have to worry about a flat. You don't have to worry about having to sign a lease agreement, because as doctors, we like moving around. So the thing with that is that lease agreements are very binding and it can be really hard to get away from them, or you'll be expected to give 3 months notice and whatnot. So that whole thing of having, accommodation from the hospital sort of saves you from that. And also, you save a lot of money, basically, because you don't really pay money towards accommodation because you're staying in hospital, accommodation. And unlike in cities, they invest in better looking, doctors' residence, unlike the ones that you'll typically see in the city. And you don't only stay for the period of internship, ComServe, but you can stay literally all your life. You can stay as long as you want. So a lot of people will continue staying in the rural. That's the other thing that they use in terms of making sure that you remain in that rural hospital, is that they make sure that they provide you with accommodation. So the doctors that have been around for longer have like townhouses and they stay with their families. So that's the deal in terms of rural health or rural medicine, basically. So number 3, it's safer. It is safer compared to the city. Like even the whole environment is quite conducive in terms of raising your kids. It's almost like how we grew up. Like you weren't scared, or you didn't have to watch your kids like a hawk. Like we weren't watched. We could play outside without our parents worrying that we'd be, abducted or things like that. I don't know. The city is a dangerous place, and yeah, small towns are slowly becoming that, but they still also slightly better. So there's also good schools. So it's a nice environment if you want to raise kids outside of the city, because there's a lot of things that your kids will get exposed to, especially with city life. So it's nice way to, even for the kids, the schools are basic, they're rural, they're nice, they get to play outside, experience nature, instead of like being locked up in the house to watch TV, play video games. So that's the nice thing about it. It is because you are actually needed. Like, because there's not a lot of doctors, there's a lot of, I know it can be very discouraging because there's a lot of cracks in the system. There's a lot of things that are not being done. But I feel like you see how your presence can make a difference, more specifically, especially in smaller like hospitals and smaller areas. You're able to see that, oh my gosh, like if there was no person, to pick up this or see this, this person would have died. And you see the impact of your presence in people's lives, just in terms of just management of conditions. Yeah, well, because a lot of people don't have access to like medical doctors or just medicine as a whole. They don't have access because the hospitals are far, clinics are far. So for me personally, you're able to just contribute, and you're able to see why you actually studied medicine. It almost sort of like reveals your purpose to you. I don't know, it's like your purpose, but then sometimes you just see it live, and it's just like, and obviously it makes such a huge difference, and people are more appreciative than, and you know that in like cities or like quaternary hospitals you're not needed. It's just they won't, you don't see the impact of it because the whole system is working and is functional. Whereas in like smaller facilities, you're able to see, I don't know, sort of like the building blocks, and having to be a person and a young doctor contributing to that and, making a difference at that level. For me, I don't hate that. Like, I don't really hate that. It makes me feel like I'm contributing to society, and it makes me feel like I'm making a difference. So yeah, I don't know, do consider it. I don't know, some people will end up in rural hospitals by mistake. If you are one of those people, and by means of this whole placement system and this whole unemployment, you end up, in a rural area, the important thing is to make the most of it. You will see medicine at its core. Yes, there won't be like the specialized thingamabobs, there won't be CT scans, there won't be x-rays or whatnot, but you will get to experience medicine at its core and rely on your skill. And I feel personally that builds so much confidence in one and in you as a doctor, as a whole, to be able to, bambi power. I know it's quite intimidating and it's scary, because most of the time in rural settings, there's no seniors, there's no people to consult, there's not a lot of like equipment and things like that to work with. But I mean, you are it, sis. Like, oh man, you are all that it takes to make a difference. And yeah, I hope you all consider that. So do comment if you were placed in a rural area. Discuss how you feel about that, or discuss how you would, you imagine it to be. Just link it down below if you have any more questions regarding like how it actually really is, or basically any comment regarding working in a rural facility. So majority of us Black people or people of color were bursary holders, and the main purpose of the government giving us bursaries was so that we come back to these communities and make a difference and contribute in improving medical care in rural settings or in small areas. So areas of need more particularly. So yeah, if anything, it gives me joy. It gives me absolute joy. I hope you learned something. I will catch you on my next video. Thanks for watching.